Hello and welcome to the Heritage Month on Air series. Now today on this series we're looking at places of historical significance. Now I have joining me on the set this morning Kweku Dako Ankra, who some of you may already know. I mean, he's so well versed in the history of Ghana that it's just fascinating to hear him speak. And today we're going to be looking at places of significant importance. Now he's here. Kweku, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Now, what are we looking at today? Which places of significance are we going to be talking about today?
So on the coast, we're looking at the Fante communities.
Okay.
So two of them.
Two of them.
We're looking at Mankesim and Saltpond.
Okay.
So those are the two areas we're going to start with.
Let's get into it. Why is Saltpond, for example, why is Saltpond considered an important historical place of significance?
Okay. So among the Fantes, they are grouped into different ethnic groups. So we have the Mankesim, whose indigenous name is Amanfo.
Okay.
Then we have the Nkusukum, which includes Saltpond.
Okay.
We have the Anomabo, we have the Inyan, Gumua, and then we have the other group like Ejumaku and Co. Within, as well as Abra is very important too. Okay. When the Fantes were coming from Techiman, they were grouped in these orders before they came to settle at the land they now occupy in the coast. After moving from Kwamankasi, crossing the Prime, staying at Kwamankasi, they moved all the way and then they came to fight the Eti, who were settled at a place called Adwejil. So Adwejil is what is now called Mankesim. Okay. So the Fantes came to settle there. When the Fantes were coming, one of the elders who led the group was called Nkusu. And Nkusu's group that he led them, they were people who were the vanguard. So they were also the elders. So they went to stay. The group was called the Nkusukum area. So the Nkusukum area is from immediately around the Mankesim roundabout. Okay. If you are going to Cape Coast, there is a place where they buried the ancestors of the Fantes. That is Obumankuma with the Pigeon and also where they buried them is called Nananomopo. That land is called Obidan. Okay. So the Nkusukum start from that area all the way up to Yamransa.
But so is that why we have that the statues in the roundabout there?
Very good.
Okay.
Around the roundabout there. Okay. So that is from that Obidan area through Kuntu, through Saltpond, all the way, excluding Mankesim, Abanze, Anomabo, Eja. Then after that, Birua, Akatechua, all the way to Yamransa is called Nkusukum, all those areas. As I said, excluding only Anomabo, Abanze, Eja, and Kromante. Then Saltpond, and all the towns there, that is Kuntu, Nankesim, up to Obidan, all of it falls under Nkusukum. Now the question is, why is Saltpond very important? Saltpond's importance started long before the political development occurred. Saltpond was a leading port city. Unlike all the Fante communities, Saltponds were engaged in the making of salt. In Chen. So the town itself was founded by someone who lived at Nankasado from Bekado. He was called Nti. He crossed the lagoon there called Atofa and crossed to the area to come and trap crabs. And when he came to the area, he had his hamlet, and the place called the Bekado developed. Developed and it became a big area. And a certain hunter also butchered an elephant, and a lot of people says they are going to where the big meat was captured. So the place became Nankasado, where the big meat is at. So the town further developed. A new group of people came, and an area called Ekuada, which is upper town of Saltpond, also developed. also developed. Okay, so within that context, it led to development of two areas. So Saltpond have the lower town and then the upper town.
Oh, wow.
These two communities led into the community we know as Saltpond. But the Fante name, original Fante name, because they used to manufacture or engage in salt production was Achenfo. So people who engage in salt production.
Yeah.
So in Chenfo,
yes,
salt makers.
Yes.
So that is how the town came about. Over the years, because the place is also, it is one of the places where we have deep waters within the Fante communities.
Okay.
So it also became a leading seaport. So when Anamabo and Cape Coast seaport activities were going down, according to Professor K.B. Dixon, Saltpond then became a major hotspot for most of the Achim traders as well as the Akomu traders pass most of their resources or some of their product to sell within Saltpond community. So this
so it was a commercial town?
It's a commercial town. It became
town.
A very commercial town because of that seaport that developed after Anamabo and then Saltpond, Cape Coast seaport were going down. So Saltpond became a leading seaport. So a lot of cocoa, a lot of timbers and products passed through Saltpond. But there's something very interesting about Saltpond. Unlike all the other Fante communities, the Saltpond people were not engaged in fishing production, or they were not fishermen.
Why not?
Because of the deep waters, and they were also mostly farmers, and they also engaged in salt production, as I stated. So what they used to do is that they send most of their product to go to Saltpond, or people say some of the coconuts they have, and they send it to Fante, and then they go and take some fish in the form of barter trade. So their appellation among the Fante is that Achemfo brefi Achemfo, wadam pa no so one couple wanted to could be one phone call Fante can come from busy. Okay, so there are people who are so the brefi is the old basket.
Interpret that for
that's what I'm interpreting. So the brefi Achemfo is that old basket which you use. They put a lot of goods in it, women, when they go to market. So that brefi Achemfo. So they are known for their baskets that they carry. So they take it to Fante with their coconut. So they carry their coconut to Saltpond, and then they use it to butter for fish and to come and eat. That is why they say Achemfo brefi Achemfo. Also one couple. They are people who live by the sea, but they don't go to sea. So they rather pluck some coconut and send it to Fante, and then they use it to exchange fish to come and eat. So that is their name.
In terms of the historical importance, let's look at people who have risen to the status of national significance from Saltpond.
So because of this trading activity, Saltpond became very important, attracted a whole lot of businessmen, political activists, and so on within the colonial days. So you see someone like Alfred Sam, who was from Achim area, Abumusu area, who came to settle in Saltpond, and he became the first person to engage in Pan-Africanism of repatriating African Americans from America back home to Africa.
Wow.
So that is Chief Alfred Kofi Sam.
What time period are we looking at?
That was within 1890s. He started long before even Marcus Garvey would dream of taking off back to African policy. Chief Alfred Kofi Sam had already started that movement of back to Africa. And he availed a lot of land, going to United States, engaging in a lot of public forums, speaking to African Americans who are fed up with that way the Jim Crow system is treating them in the United States, for them to return back to Gold Coast, where land are provided. So he engaged, a lot of documents are there to suggest or to explain the kind of things Chief Alfred Kofi Sam did. And one of his great-granddaughter, Professor Ebony Koletu, has written on the work of Chief Alfred Kofi Sam, who was from Saltpond. And within that, Saltpond also developed a kind of certain men of resistance. So for a very long time in Saltpond, even to build a police station was a problem. Wow. These were people who they know their rights. They were highly educated. Okay. People from Amanfopo, like Kosa family, moved all the way from there to settle in Saltpond, okay, where they were engaged in business activity because Chief Kosa, for instance, was a leading agent of what is now called Unilever, which company used to be F&A Swansea, okay, Miller Brothers back in the day. He was working with them in those days. Okay. We have J.E. Keto, the Keto family, who were also there, and they were engaged in a lot of business activities. So okay, in Saltpond, you have a lot of businessmen like Ege Taylor, whose children will also later come out and become important legal brains in which Gold Coast and Ghana has ever produced. Okay. So within that context, Cape Coast Saltpond produced a huge intellectual power. Okay. It became a center.
Let's move from Saltpond. Let's go talk about Mankesim.
Before I move at Saltpond, let me add this. If you look at most of the Chief Justice, we have just Supreme Court, Justice Ekins came from there, Justice E.M.P. Taylor came from there, Chief Justice Aqua came from there. Okay. And there were many.
So they basically carry the heritage of academic
in terms of intellectuals. Yeah. You can talk of P.A.V. Ansa. Okay. Professor P.A.V. Ansa also come from the Prabu areas of Saltpond. Okay. So even recently, Professor Jampu, he also comes from Saltpond. Okay. You can talk of Kojo Opon, Nkrumah, and others. They all come from Saltpond. Okay. So Saltpond produced that, and most importantly, Saltpond was the place that United Gold Coast Convention, UGCC, was founded. Interesting. As well as CPP. Okay. CPP was also founded in Saltpond. Wow. That is why people describe Saltpond as the political mecca of Ghana. Okay. And it also produced one of the enterprising and skilled political politicians Ghana has ever produced, whom most politicians describe as Ghana's political catechist, which is Kofi Bakum, the father of ace journalist Kweku Bakum, his father. Okay. He was called the political catechist because of his political skills during the CPP days. Then you also have Chief Kwachi, which is the father of Totobi Kwachi. All of them were Saltpond politicians that engaged and shaped the politics of the Gold Coast.
So intro for us the conversation about Mankesim and where its place is significantly. We will go for a short break, but before we do that, just talk to us about Mankesim.
So the Mankesim, as I say, the traditional capital of all the Fante people. That is where all the Fantes came to settle.
All Fantes came to settle.
The Fante groups when they moved from Techiman. That is where they congregated for a long time before population explosion led to some of them moving out to found their various settlements.
I see. So Mankesim, I mean, by interpretation means inside the big town, or is that correct?
Mankesim, inside the big town.
Okay.
So Oman, that is town. Yeah. Kese, big. Inside, of course, so that is where they were all stayed in. Okay. So most Fantes, they in English we call it hypochoristics. They cut it short and say Omem. Okay. So most Fantes within
we refer to Mankesim as Omem. Okay.
Yeah, that is Omenum. Yeah. Inside the town. That is where all the Fantes live. But the Mankesim town itself, the people, the Fantes that live there also have their name, and they are called Amanfo. Right. Amanfo. So the Mankesim, their real name is Amanfo. And their leader that brought them was called Quintil. So Quintil's people, that's why they are called Quintil Amanfo. Okay. So when a person from Mankesim meets another person from Mankesim, he says Quintil Amanfo, then you also say Amanfo Jado. That is how they greet each other to let them know that they are both
from
Mankesim.
Okay, fantastic. You know what? We're going to take a short break. We'll come back and we'll continue the conversation about Mankesim. All right, so let's take a short break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. we talking about Saltpond. We went into a bit of detail there, looked at how the people came to Saltpond and their connection with all the different towns along the coast there. And we're now looking at Mankesim inside the big town. Let's continue.
Yeah, so Mankesim, as I said, as a place of congregation of all the Fante people, became a very big town. So it was from there that the Abra moved out to go and look for a new place to settle.
Okay.
It's from the same place that the Nkusukum leader who left the place. It was called Kowokumuko. It was Kowokumuko, yes, who moved from there through Mankesim and all the way to finally settle at Nyamransa.
Okay.
So within the Nkusukum, even though Saltpond is the biggest town, but the traditional capital is Nyamransa.
Oh,
so Nyamransa is the traditional head of all the Nkusukum states. One thing I forget and I need to add before I come back to Mankesim is that Saltpond is also the center for Ahmadiyya activities. It used to be the capital of the Ahmadiyya missionary.
Oh, I see.
That is where it started.
Okay.
So you cannot talk about the history of Ahmadiyya
without referring to Saltpond.
Yes, without referring to Saltpond. This is very critical. And that explains why there's a huge number of Fantes bearing Muslim names from Saltpond within the Obidan and some part of even Nkusukum area leading to Ekumifi areas. It is because of the Saltpond's position as a center of Ahmadiyya mission, which started its activity.
Fantastic.
So this is very critical information. So Mankesim, as I stated, was where the Fantes started and when they came, they had a patriarch head. So the last leader who was there, and then before they had a new leader, was what we call the Osun. It was when Osun passed before we had a first leader that was installed for the Fante there. Was called Eduenu Echan. So Eduenu Echan became the first leader there. From there, before Amanfuedu, Abu Brakatechi, and many others also came to become chiefs of the Mankesim there. But mind you, they were not chiefs or kings of the Fantes, because the Fantes were confederates. So Fante was a confederation. So we have different groups, as I've mentioned, the Nkusukum, the Abra, the Anumabo, the Gomua.
So these were like different Fante states.
Yes, different Fante states and leaders who move out. But they all lived at Mankesim. But the Mankesim people, which is the Quentin's Amanfu group, they did not move. So they settled there to take care of the community where we all came to settle. So Mankesim then has become the ancestral home of the Fante people.
I see.
So that is the significance of the Fante. And that is why when Fante Confederation was founded in 1860 thereabout, 1863 thereabout, they made Mankesim the capital where the Confederation used to be resided. So that explains Mankesim's significance. And Mankesim is a leading trading community. That's why the fact that it is landlocked, unlike Saltpond and other communities, Mankesim is also a center of where most of the Fante activities occurred. And every Fante state have their Obatan, that is a leader they left behind. So if you are from Nkusukum, the chief of Nkusukum has his Obatan. When we say Obatan, it's a parent or a mother of a sort. But a man can also be Obatan. So that Obatan has a ward at Mankesim.
I see.
So there's Nkusukum ward with the Nkusukum Obatan at Mankesim. There is Anomabu Obatan at Mankesim.
So is this Obatan, is it like a queen mother? Is this, what kind of figurehead is this?
It is your ancestral leader you left behind to go and scout for a new land. Are you getting the point? So that shows you that this is where you left. And this also explains the cultural unity among the Fante people.
So right now it stands like it's a monument. It's a place of monument and memorial.
Also cultural unity of the Fante people as one group of people who travel together, and as a result of certain circumstances, others move out to seek greener pastures. So it is in that order. So also your Asafaya. So no matter what happened, whatever you do, you know where you come from.
Okay.
What is tree if it does not have roots? So our roots show us where we come from.
Yeah.
And for the Fantes, Mankesim is our roots.
Okay. Now, Asante Manso.
Asante Manso is Sumeja.
Yeah.
It's a very important area within Asante community. It is very important because this place is where most of the major Asante families or the clans congregated before they moved out to go and found their various states. So according to...
Where did they come from to settle there?
According to the history of the Asante Manso itself, their oral tradition asserts that their ancestors emerged from the ground in a sacred grove in an area within the Asante Manso there.
Okay.
And they came out of one Inchijo. In Asante to Inchijo means Monday night. And when they came out, they were 7 men and 7 women. And they were followed by a leopard, a dog with a bone in the mouth, as well as a frog. Okay, so when these people came out, the dog provided fire. And so these people were Ediana, Atria Abrede. They are divided into that group, the Ediana group. So this Ediana group, the dog that provided fire, that is why we call Ediana people Ojaba.
Okay.
Ediana people as Ojaba, people who they are the people who are believed to have been inventors of fire.
Okay.
Among the Akan group.
Okay.
And the first provided water. It cried and showed and water flow. So we said Ediana Atria Abrede, Apronchenia Omensu. Okay, so it is the frog that provided water, made water to come.
Okay.
And then the only one of them, Abiwamusio, according to when they came out, planted Ode, which is a species of yam.
Okay.
And that yam grew immediately and provided food for them to enjoy.
Yeah.
And then they settled at the Asante Manso there. Now, what make Asante Manso very important? What makes Asante Manso Esumidja very important is the congregation of other clans from various areas to come and settle at Asante Manso Esumidja before departing to go and found their state. So the first people that were to come were the Oyoko people.
Okay.
The Oyoko people. Oyoko means I am getting ready to go. Mako. Oyoko. Now we say Oyoko.
Yeah.
So in Chi it is all Y, then you see all K or Ko. Oyoko. So they were led by their epical ancestors called Anchwanyami.
Okay.
So Anchwanyami, after moving all the way from Adansi areas, coming down to Isiakwa. When they came to Isiakwa, they realized that the land was not enough and better for them to live there. So they say Yesiakwa. So they moved from Isiakwa within the Achim area, and then they moved all the way back to Asante Manso.
It's like there's no point in dropping you off here.
Yes.
We might as well go back.
Go where we can have all the resources available.
Okay.
So in Asante Manso Esumidja, they settled at a place called Nampansa, okay, where they have that fallen dilapidated building where Anchwanyami and her people settled, and with a crew, their sisters and others like Yita. And while they were there, the group divided into 2. So then they had Adako group, which came out of it. That is the Yita's ancestors, a crew's son, which was called Nana Dansu Abiam. So Dansu Abiam, when he had a discussion with Achampon Tintin of Oyoko, Achampon Tintin decided that he will do if he will be there. He is getting ready to move immediately. So he and his people, Achampon Tintin of Oyoko and his people with Anchwanyami's children, they moved all the way and went to settle at Kokofu. So they founded Kokofu, where the red reed is Kokofu.
Okay. So wait, let me clarify. So we have the Oyoko people.
Yes.
Settling in Kokofu.
Yes.
To found Kokofu.
Yes, to found Kokofu. Okay. And from Kokofu, the descendants of the Orapa people moved to Kumasi to found Kumasi. Okay?
Yes.
They moved from Kokofu to found
Yes.
Kumasi.
Yes.
So they are the same Orapa people.
Yes.
And they were the people who will later found the Ashanti kingdom. And this is why Asante Manso is important.
Okay, so this is the Heritage Month on Air series. You don't want to miss out on any of the exciting conversations. Big thank you to Kweku Danko Akra, and we'll be back again with a part 2.